Hello and welcome to the final tutorial of this module 1, building a blockchain. Now it is time for the demo. You can hear by the sound of my voice that I'm super excited to show you this. We're basically going to run the app, as you can see by the last code section of our implementation. We're going to run the app from our Flask app, and then we will jump into Postman to make our requests, and we will test our two requests, the mine block request to mine a block, and the get chain request. And we will actually start with this get chain request to make sure that when we run the whole code, well, the Genesis block is well created with, I remind, a proof of 1 and a previous hash of 0. So we'll check that first, and then we will mine some blocks. We can mine as many blocks as you want, and from time to time we can get the chain to see the actual state of the chain. So let's do all this. Now we just need to make a single line of code to run this app, and to do this we take our app object, which I remind is an instance of the Flask class, our app object, and from this app object we're going to call the run method, into which we have to input two arguments, the host and the port. So to know exactly what we have to input for these two arguments, well, let's go back to the Flask quick start guide. So I'm going to go back to Google. Here is the quick start guide, and as you can see, our Flask web application is running on this URL. So we will input this URL in Postman, but so far remember that we have to input in the run method from our app object the host and the port. So if we scroll down a little bit, we can see a few words on the host, and more specifically we can see that if we trust the users on our network, we can make the server publicly available simply by adding host equals 0.0.0.0. And since we will all be interacting with our blockchain, but in module 2, because that's only in module 2 that we will decentralize the blockchain, well, we are already going to include this host equals 0.0.0.0 to make the server publicly available. That's our first argument. Let's go back to Python to input this. So let's just paste that inside, host equals 0.0.0.0, but just be careful, we need to input the 4 zeros in quotes, just like that. And now, second argument. The second argument is the port, and again, if we go back to the Flask quick start guide, we can see the port. It is the port 5000. All right, so let's just copy this. Let's go back to Python. Here we go. And let's input the second argument, which is the port that is equal to 5000. All right, and now we're ready to run the app. So to run the app, we not only need to run this single line of code, but of course we need to run the whole code. So I just selected the whole code, and just before we execute this, what I recommend is to be in the right folder in File Explorer. So I'm just going to go to my desktop and then my blockchain A to Z folder, and then module 1 create a blockchain, because in general it's recommended to execute the code in your working directory folder. So here we go. Let's run the whole code. Are you ready? Here we go. All right, running on HTTP 0.0.0.0:5000. Everything seems to be all good. So now we are ready to jump to Postman. So the server is up and running. We have nothing left to do in Python. We can now go to our list of programs or our list of applications for Mac users and find Postman. So remember, I downloaded Postman, which was in my download folder, but then I put it in my applications folder. So here it is. Let's double click on it and it should be opening in any second. There it is. And here is Postman. All right, so welcome back to Postman, and now we're directly going to make our request. And to make a request, well, we simply need to enter the request URL right here. We first need to select the type of request. As you can see, you have all the types of requests here, including get and post. For our blockchain right now, we will only be sending some get requests. So let's select this. It was already selected anyway. And now we just need to enter the request URL. So what is this request URL? Well, that's exactly the URL I showed you in the Flask quick start guide. But then, after the last slash of this URL, well, we need to add the name of the request we input in our decorator. So first, let's get the Flask URL. So I'm just going to go back to the Flask Quick Start Guide to get the Flask URL. So that's exactly what we need. This URL right here. So let's copy this. Let's go back to Postman and let's just paste that here. And now here we go. We're ready to add any of the two requests we made. So as a reminder, that's in Python, we made two requests, the mine block request to mine a block and the get chain request to get the whole chain displayed in Postman. So we're going to start with this one. We will see the whole chain, which will just contain one block, which will be the Genesis block. And then we will mine some blocks. We will mine like 10 to 20 blocks. And from time to time, we will display the blockchain again to see if we have our blocks correctly added to the blockchain. So let's do this. Let's go back to Postman. All right, so as we said, we're going to start with the get chain request. So you just need to add get chain here as I just did. And then you have two choices. Either you click on send here, or you can just press enter. So as you want, I'm going to press enter. There you go. And here you go. Welcome to our blockchain. Here is our blockchain with only one block, the Genesis block, and we can confirm that the previous hash is 0 and the proof is 1. And this block was created the 4th of February in 2018 at precisely midnight and 23 minutes. You can now have a good idea of what I am doing on a Saturday night. So our get chain request works very well. We have our Genesis block created. We have the first block of our blockchain. Now let's mine some new blocks. So to mine some new blocks, well, here we simply need to replace get chain by mine block, and then same, just press enter. And here we go. Index 2, as you can see, this is the second block that is mined. And we have our message, congratulations, you just mined a block. We have the previous hash, which is the hash of the previous block, which we could check by applying the hash function that we made on the Genesis block. Then we have the proof. So the solution to our problem to get a cryptographic hash of the square of the new proof minus the square of 1, starting with 4 leading zeros, well, the solution to that was 533, meaning that the cryptographic hash of the encoded string of the square of 533 minus the square of 1, that is 1, starts with 4 leading zeros. You can check that in the console of Python if you want. And again, we have the timestamp. Our block was mined still on a Saturday night. I haven't moved anywhere. On the 4th of February at midnight and 34 minutes. All right, perfect. So now let's just get our chain back. That is, let's just display again. And it's very easy now. You just need to replace mine block by get chain and get chain by mine block. We're going to do that several times. We're going to mine 20 or 30 blocks just for fun. So let's press enter here. And now here we go. We have two blocks, the Genesis block here of index 1 and our first mined block of index 2. And we have also the length of the chain, which indeed contains two blocks. All right, and now let's play with this. So I'm going to mine several blocks at a time. So there we go, mining a second block. So here we go, we have our new block of index 3. Congratulations, you just mined a block. And the proof is now 45,293. And it was mined at midnight, 37 minutes. Great. Now let's mine another block. So the request is already ready. Let's press enter. Here we go, a new block of index 4. Enter again, a new block of index 5. Enter, enter, enter. I have tons of new mined blocks and I'm happy. And so as you can see, it's very easy to mine some blocks. If you want to increase the complexity of the problem, you just need to make the operation more complex, or an easier solution is to increase the number of leading zeros. I told you that it's a great way of increasing the complexity. So here we go, let's mine some new blocks again. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now we have 20 blocks. Let's check the state of our chain with the get chain request. There we go. And here is our chain now containing 20 blocks, as we can see very clearly, not only with the length here that says 20, but with all our blocks with their indexes 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, so perfect. Our blockchain is functioning very well. And so that means that we now have a general blockchain. So module 1 is done. Now we're going to move on to the next level, which will be module 2. And in module 2, we will create a cryptocurrency, the Hatcoin. And to create it, we will start from this blockchain, we will develop it, we will decentralize it. So we will create a decentralized network of several nodes. And each of you, by the way, will be able to get on some node to mine some blocks in the blockchain to get the cryptocurrencies. And you'll see, to develop this, we will need to make some other requests, which will not only be GET requests, but mostly POST requests, because in this blockchain, we're going to add some data, which will be the transactions of the altcoins. And to create these transactions, we will need to make a POST request, creating a JSON file containing the secured informations of the transactions with the sender, the receiver, and the amount of altcoins exchanged. I can't wait to build the altcoins, and until then, enjoy blockchains.